further beyond that one province of Navarra that the nation of Navarra starts with lies a huge potential of amazing and fun things to achieve. And that is exactly what you are going to see in this Navarra EU4 story. It is Monday and I'm the student, so I present you Plus Ultra. After I set up my first mission, after I conquered the provinces from Castile, I got claims on the Munster area in Ireland, and I allied the Irish nation next to Desmond, which was in this case Munster itself, where I sent my troops to before I declared the war, obviously promising him land, which I definitely didn't give him. But this way I could directly go into Desmond from day one and win that war. Why I'm doing that is because this province is a trade center. It is a trade center in the North Sea region, which means that after I took that trade center and built a few lightships, which I was doing all the time while fighting this war, I can click the third mission of my colonial mission tree in the 1450s, as you can see. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to finish off the war against Desmond. I'm going to full annex them, and so that I don't have to core them, I'm going to actually release him as a vassal immediately after, which you can see right now, transfer trade power from them, and then send the lightships into the North Sea, while also sending a merchant that transfers trade power, because if I would collect, then I would get 50% less trade power. And that is enough for me to click that mission of the Navarra mission that gives me 33% colonial range and an explorer on top of that, which means that I can start exploring the world even before Portugal and Castile, or Castile for that matter, because Portugal starts also with an explorer, but not with 33% colonial range modifier. And after I got that colonial range modifier, I fought Portugal, and I fought Portugal on my own, because obviously my force limit increased a lot after I released Galicia first and Desmond second. And also my income was quite nice, as I was still getting trade power from Castile from my first war. And I thought that I would take money and trade power and so on from them, but then I thought, why don't take the Azores? Because after all, I've just got a 33% colonial range modifier, and it seems that this is really enough to take the Azores, even though I don't have the colonial range modifier from Explore Ideas. And after I cored the Azores, obviously, I'm going to have a huge potential to colonize the New World. That's also why I took a colonist from Expansion Ideas. I didn't even bother to take Exploration Ideas, because in 1.35 they are just too bad to take, in my opinion. But the one colonist already allows me to take Grand New World Charters, which unlocks a unique decision, which gives me an additional 10% colonial range modifier. And on top of that also, if you have a colonist, you can get a diplomatic advisor that gives you 20% colonial range modifier. And so it ends up that I've got plus 63% colonial range modifier in 1462 already. And this insane colonial range lets me then actually discover and colonize one province in Newfoundland area, even directly from the Azores, without any other province that I have to colonize before that. And yeah, obviously I need, for my mission, I need another province that I can't reach right now, as you can see. But if you send a colonist, you're going to see in a second that the bordering provinces of a colony that is right now actually going is also reachable, which means that I just have to recall the colonist, send it again to the next bordering province that I actually need of Placentia, and then abandon the previous colony, because once a colonist is sent, it doesn't matter if the colonial range is still high enough, he will arrive in any case. And that's how I ended up owning one province in the New World in 1463 as an OPM Navarra start. And this obviously brings me ahead of colonization of every single other nation in the game. Jumping a few years ahead of time, you can see that I'm now in year 1500, and I have colonized a few more provinces in the New World already, making some quite nice money also, as you can see. But most importantly, I've chosen to show you this stage of the game because I'm just before of getting the third colonial nation done in the Caribbeans. And I'm right now feeding 4 provinces to my vassal Catalonia that I conquered from Aragon in between, because now I have only 14 non-colony provinces, which obviously I'm going to lose 5 on top of that after the colony finishes and the colonial nation forms, because they have 5 provinces. There we go, Cuba, and this means that if I now click the mission of Terra Nova, I will be having 9 provinces. And this enables a unique option on the event, which normally gives only one option, but if you have less than 10 provinces, you have the option to move your capital via this event to the province of Placentia, which renames the province to Terra Nova, which is basically only saying a new land in Latin. So that is really nice. On top of that, getting the triangle trade, by the way, quite nice money on that front. But anyways, I just wait until I expel minorities, which will become important later on, and move my capital to the New World, which obviously means that now everything I colonize will keep being my provinces directly and not go to any colonial nations. But as I have embraced colonial nations in Mexico, the East Coast and the Caribbeans, not only does that bring me the Treaty of Tordesillas, which means that no one is going to colonize there, but also it allows me to feed them land and let them core that land for me. Okay, so after you just saw how the game went after the first colonization steps to this state of 1555 right now, it is time for the big bang in this game, which is the formation of Florida. And I'm going to form Florida because of a few reasons. First of all, it will allow me to annex all colonial nation subjects, which means that I'm going to simply inherit, it doesn't say that over here, I'm basically inheriting them. I'm going to inherit Cuba over here, Mexico, my biggest subject. Cuba, I've had some provinces over here, which most of them is already caught, of course, and Terra Nova over here, which is the East Coast colonial subject, and I fed them a lot of provinces, and this is basically the stage where those provinces become free land for me. Because for now they were just my subjects' land, right? Not my land, but as you can see, those provinces are full cores. Mexico, for example, is full stated, this entire region of provinces, which obviously includes all of the gold mines over here. And the same also goes for Cuba over here, which, they actually are still coring a few things over here. I'm just going to wait a few more days over here, like to the 5th. There we go. Another core. The other provinces I will just core later, but as you can see also, those are full core provinces, and also those provinces that are fed over here, full core. And the same for Terra Nova. But the thing is that this wouldn't even matter because, as I said, this decision over here enables you to inherit those nations, which means that it is the same thing as if you integrate other subjects, even if they have only territorial cores. If you annex them, they will become full cores. And that without paying any kind of diplo points, just clicking the decision. Now the decision obviously has a big downside, which is that you lose all provinces and subjects in Europe, Asia and Africa. Which means that if I had, for example, PU'd France at this stage, I would just lose France. They would just become independent. But there is actually a workaround that is pretty clean, but also some kind of weird, which is if you have a colonial nation in Australia over there, and then feed them a province line through like Southeast Asia, India, and Arabia, and so on, through the provinces so that you can feed them European provinces. Then you will also inherit that colonial nation, and with that inherit the European provinces as well. But that is also kind of an endgame thing, because I'm not in India right now in 1555 as Navarra. I had more than enough to do with uniting those provinces in the Americas, so that's not an option. But EU4 is a pretty simple game. Because it says you will abandon all core provinces and subjects in Europe, Asia and Africa. Basically what that means is that if you have your capital in the old world, then you are an old world nation. In this case, Barcelona is the capital of Aragon, which is on the continent of Europe, which means that Aragon is a European nation. Let me do this on an example of Desmond over here, which I just never abandoned. They are a European nation, so they are going to be abandoned with this decision. Now, if you have your capital in the New World, such as this vessel of mine over here, then you are an American nation, which means that this decision is not affecting this nation, right? And this means that, as you can see, I fed them one province over here through war, that if I now abandon all of those provinces by feeding them to this subject with its capital in America, then I won't lose him as a subject, and the subject won't lose the core provinces, because after all, that's not what this decision says, right? It says you will abandon core provinces and subjects, but not that your subjects are abandoning core provinces in Europe. So yeah, and by the way, if I form Florida, I still keep the Navarranese missions, so I can then later go into Bordeaux and take the Union on France when I already done that. But the most important reason why I form Florida is because it doesn't say that over here directly, but it gives you a country flag that disallows you to create colonial nations or give provinces to colonial nations automatically. And that means that even if I move my capital from Miami over here, for example, to Spain, so that I can form Spain later on, and take like those nice government reforms that you can only take if you are in Europe, basically, then I will still keep all of those lands as my direct course. Which means that all of those provinces that I'm going to inherit if I click that decision will be my full course, even if I move my capital back to Europe. And by the way, I'm obviously still keeping my permanent claims over the other nations, right, that I got from the first Aragonese mission over here. Okay, and before that, as I gave a lot of other culture provinces away, I can now switch to Leonese culture, which sadly will abandon my course of Navarra government reform over here, which is kind of sad, but I'm going to get obviously system of councils later if I form Castile. But what it also does is it disables my naval doctrine, as you can see, but it enables me another naval doctrine which disallows me to recruit explorers and conquistadors right now. But yeah, as you can see, I explored most of the world already, and I can also take an explorer from that every time I want. But it gives me instead 50% treasure fleet income, which obviously I'm going to still use later. You're going to see how that is going to go. But for now, let's just form Floridan Nation. I can also form American Nation right away, but it is an endgame tag, so I won't do that. And yeah, I inherited the thrones, as you can see, of all of my colonial nations, which means that my current development, my current own development is right now 1,600, which is basically way more than the top nation France has in this situation. And this also lets me become an empire, so I can basically just placate rulers before that. And by the way, also enables me to send officers to my march, because he now has way less development than I. And lets me become an empire rank. Very nice cultural union over there. And of course the classical minus 400 balance because of yeah, a few colonies that I'm over the force limit. By the way, also over the limit. By the way, also one reason why creating colonial nations in the first place is so strong, not only that they can core up and take the overextension from the land that you conquer, but they also colonize new land, as you can see, a lot new land for your nation. So that is also really nice. But let me just fix that real quick. And by the way, in this game I can and I will take the Admiralty regime for as long as I get this one, of course. Because as you can see, this is an insanely underrated government reform, because obviously it comes with maritime ideas, which I think is the ideal gameplay for this kind of the games. And you notice that I obviously have a naval force limit of 150, which grants me so much more trade income and yeah, basically ability to move my armies around. You wouldn't believe how strong that can be. But also this government reform, as you can see over there on the top, gives you coastal provinces cost minus 10% governing capacity. So every coastal province, which as you can see is most of my country right now, will give minus 10% governing capacity. And every coastal province that I conquer or that I want to full state costs me minus 25% core creation cost. This government reform literally gives you core creation cost. And on top of that, it also gives you insane naval modifiers that you might not need if you took naval ideas, because naval gameplay is easy in this game, but they are still quite strong, especially the maximum admiral fire, which means that you can theoretically get 7 pips in admiral fire. And now obviously I'm also going to start annexing my subject over here to regain the provinces in Europe, that's for sure. I'm even going to take this one for that matter, on level 2 even, but basically so that it goes faster. 2 years, it saved me 2 years, so quite nice. But also I'm going to now seize provinces from them, because I probably can core them. Yes, I can core them. So I'm going to seize the most important provinces, such as Sevilla over there, or Porto, which would make them disloyal. Maybe I find something that does not make them disloyal. I guess I'll take Asturias then, which makes them just a little disloyal, but now it's fine again. Obviously I'm transferring trade power, and now I can, as soon as I core that both of those provinces up, I will be able to move my main trade node back to Sevilla, which is obviously my main source of trade income for now. And by the way, also pretty interesting is that the Treaty of Tordesillas still counts, even though I don't have any colonial nations. So yes, nations such as France, which actually took exploration ideas, won't colonize in any regions that I've claimed, which is Mexico, the East Coast, and the Caribbeans, which means that I can just do that for myself pretty easily. And as you can see, as I inherited them and not annexed them, the autonomy in all of those provinces goes directly to 0. And this also means that I can now overtake the gold income for a moment until I create a new colonial nation, obviously with my vessel that I'm integrating right now. But I can assure you that this will be way more if I feed that to a colonial nation and get treasure fleets as before. And yeah, I'm just going to prepare that, and then I'm going to prepare Portugal over here to lose their capital to Castile. I'm going to offer that in a peace deal. And then I'm going to let them create colonial nations in Peru, in Mexico, and in the East Coast over here. So that I have 3 colonial nations again, that 2 of them are giving me treasure fleets, and the one over here is just there for another 20% bonus on treasure fleet income. Again, jumping ahead of time a little bit, I have now integrated Portiguara, which actually means that I have now regained my European lands that I gave away earlier within just a few years. And on top of that, I obviously established colonial nations, 5 colonial nations in total, without me losing any other lands, because I have the flag of forming Florida, as I told you earlier, which means that I have colonial nations and European provinces and my capital in Europe, which I'm moving right now back to Navarra, back to the roots, but I'm in full control on what my colonial nations should have and what they shouldn't have. which means that I get the best out of everything, the best out of the colonial nations and the best out of the provinces, such as those extremely nice trade goods in the Mayan region. And you can see right now that I'm feeding Mexico, my colonial nation Mexico, that I inherited from my subject, obviously. I'm feeding them every single gold mine, and that is obviously because treasure fleets are way more effective, like way more effective than owning those provinces directly. And same for Peru. I'm feeding all of the gold province to my Peru colonial nation, so that I get treasure fleets from them as well. Then I was making sure that every colonial nation that I have has 10 provinces, so that I can on every colonial nation enlarge the gold fleet, which adds up every time I do that 20% more treasure fleet income, and it is globally. This means that I right now end up having a treasure fleet income from an insanely 175%. And there is a treasure fleet that Mexico brings in right now, and you can see that I get this treasure fleet every 6 months, which means that 1,400 ducats every 6 months means an additional 233 monthly income. And this 230 ducats obviously comes on top of my normal income of 180 at this point, which means that not, as the ledger says, I'm having 180 income and being the second in the world. It's more like that I have 180 plus 230, so 413 ducats of income, and therefore being so far ahead of France actually. On top of that, by the way, Russia getting modernized ideas from me, and I get not the same amount, but also a huge amount of treasure fleets from Peru. This treasure fleet is also worth another 26 ducats a month. Then I was fighting Aragon the first time. Obviously, my plan is also to unite Iberia, so that's where I started that. And I was also using the gold money to upgrade the project, the great project in Peru that gives the local goods produced on the gold mine, so that the income of the Peru treasure fleet increases further. This is now the time in 1582 that I want to turn against France, which was my long-term ally, and for that I was breaking his alliance with the Ottoman Empire with favors, so that I don't have to fight the Ottomans later on, and then just rivaling them, which obviously immediately lets them break the alliance, and therefore leaves me with a 5-year truce until I can fight them for the provinces that I need for my mission tree. And that's exactly what I did. I declared a conquest CB for Bordeaux, because I need Bordeaux and 3 more provinces in that region. And this war, actually, I could call it the Swiss and Tunis, apparently. And this war actually went pretty smoothly. While I was at war, I also got the 6th diplomatic idea group unlocked, which means that I've got another 20% less war score cost for all of those provinces. Obviously, on top of that, less war score cost from Bordeaux itself, from being the war goal. And this means that it took me only a few months and only 25% war score to take all the provinces I need, which also results in a little bit of AE and a pretty small truce until 97. And there we go. Now I could theoretically click that mission, of course, but I'm going to prolong it a little bit because there is one big step that needs to be done before that, and this is obviously the Spanish Empire. Okay, so as you can see, my borders in Iberia are pretty consolidated right now already. Aragon has a pretty insane amount of war score costs, even that is more than 100% right now. But I have all of these strategic provinces owned and cored to form the Spanish nation militarily, finally in 1593. I'm switching from Florida to Spain, and before I do that, obviously I need to click the last important Navarrese mission over here, which is the restoration of the Union casus belli on France for 25 years. By the way, my truce already ends in 4 years, so no problem with that. There we go, and the other two missions, I have only 2 unique Navarrese missions left, which is this one for taking the union with France, which gives like power points, and let's be real, I don't need power points at this stage anymore. And the other one, which is Dominate Hispania, where I basically need to conquer Portugal for, which I could, but would be also lots of AE, and I'm currently in the process of dropping that, because obviously France will be a lot of AE, even though it is a restoration of the Union, so it won't be that bad. But this gives also only 0.25 yearly army tradition, which is like basically nothing. It was 0.5 before, that was kind of nice, but 0.25 is like not worth staying as Navarra or Florida for that reason. And that is the reason, as you can see, I've got the restoration of the Union CB now until 1618, which I'm going to use after the truce comes up immediately. As you can see, they have no strong allies anymore, and that is the time right now to form Spain. Okay, compared to the Florida color of the yellow that I had before, this seems more like an orange or something. But anyways, the question is right now whether I want to take the Spanish ideas or not. Actually, in this game I won't take them. I will keep the Navarrese ideas because I think they come in quite nice together with my idea set that I chose over here, with the naval force limit and the inflation reduction for the treasure fleets that I'm getting. And the National Sailors modifier, as well as the Marines force limit. I'm actually losing a lot of Marines, and those Marines are actually taking me only 80% of their manpower usage, which is basically an insane modifier. Just keep in mind, if you had that modifier for normal manpower troops, this basically means that you have 20% more manpower always, and it's not a modifier for your country, it's a modifier for your units. So that's quite nice. And also the culture conversion cost, development cost, tech cost, morale damage and so on, discipline and all that is really nice for me. But obviously, objectively, the Spanish ideas would be nicer, but this is the story of Navarra, so I'm going to keep the Navarran ideas from the beginning of the game until now. And you can see I can still PU France with a restoration of the Union CB, even though I am Spain right now. And yeah, I can click a few missions. I think I'm going to do that right away. But first of all, yeah, whatever, I can also do that. But first of all, I want to talk about the most important missions, which is obviously this one over here. I'm going to fill it in a second by recruiting mercs, I think. Because it lets me basically get a restoration of the Union CB on Great Britain. So now the thing is, I've got a restoration of the Union CB on France via the Navarrese missions, which is, by the way, the second great power in the world. And look at this France. I mean, this is basically insane. They conquered basically all of England already. That is for real insane, but I can still PU Great Britain via the Spanish mission tree, and that would be obviously way more valuable for me if they still owned those provinces over here. And of course, after I united Spain over here, which this basically says, like the Iberian provinces, I will be able to get a restoration of the Union CB on Austria as well. Austria, which is still the emperor, and I think still has some cores, yeah, 2 cores. So Austria is pretty weak in this game, but still it would be a really nice thing to have. So that is that, and that is why forming Spain is basically the last thing that this story needs to be truly legendary, in my opinion. Okay, so yeah, I've just, as you already saw, completed most of my missions that I could do. Right now I can also click the system of councils, which gives you the OP government type of Castile, obviously. But before I want to do that, I want to do, just for the memes actually, go for the maximum admiral, because I've got, as you can see over there, maximum admiral fire +1, which means that I can have 6 fire pips, as I think I have also in one over here. This one has 7 fire pips, as you can see. But I also just completed the second world synchronization, which let me complete this mission over here and gives me maximum admiral maneuver, which means that I can now also get 7 admiral maneuver pips. And of course my naval tradition is like at 92, so it shouldn't take too long. I have some diplo points to spare actually, and yeah, I'm just going to save the game right now, roll through a few admirals and see if I can get that basically. And there we go. José Gravina has 7 Admiral Fire pips and 7 Admiral Maneuver pips, which is actually quite insane if you ask me. But yeah, obviously I spent ridiculous amounts of diplo points on that, so I'm just going to make a few screenshots and then Alt F4 and reload the game before that, because I need those points to dev the gold provinces, of course. Now after that little thing for the memes, it is now time to finally abandon our admiralty regime, which took actually the glorious nation of Navarra to a whole new level of admiralty supremacy. So that was quite fun to play with that actually, but as I already said, I can now establish the system of councils tier 1 government reform, which enables the pretty strong system of councils mechanic ability. And also on top of that gives me 2 additional relations, which I actually need after I just PU'd Great Britain and after I'm going to PU France in 2 years. So that comes in quite handy, as well as the monarch administrative skill, of course, and the, let's just go for that. There goes the admiralty regime, and there goes the system of councils, as you can see, and the system of councils mechanic. For those of you who don't know what that does, is basically lets you choose a focus once you got the council points over here. As you can see, I gain almost 2 council points per month, because my ruler is a 646 after I boosted them with a few missions, of course, but he was a 636 before, so yeah, and because of the average autonomy that is positive in this case, it could be negative if you have a too high average autonomy, and liberty desire from overseas subjects, which is literally 0% because I'm so strong. Yeah, this means that I can get up to 100 points, which gives me then +4 monthly splendor and +5% admin efficiency, which is nice, but also gives me the ability to take one of these things for 10 years. And this basically means that if I make enough points of that, I can get all 3 of them, and therefore getting 3 power points plus a modifier that I choose. From that you can see over there. And on top of that have even more power points to spare, so that I get the full 100% bonus of 5% admin efficiency over here. So an extremely nice and overpowered government type, and it seems to be getting pretty easily, as you can see right now, but yeah, it is not pretty easy to get. It is just so easy because I'm first of all pretty late in the game already, and I am obviously the #1 power in the world, not only from total income, that by the way doesn't count the insane amounts of treasure fleets that I'm getting. I'm getting this one, or it's like 1,300 every 6 months, so another 200, more than 200 income that comes on top of that. But also obviously from the great power score, I'm the #1, and after I PU France, yeah, well, you're going to see what happens then. So let's just jump ahead in time and go for France. And this is the moment in which I finally fulfill Navarra's destiny, if you want so, by the war goal, obviously, that I've got from the Navarranese mission tree. And I'm going to take the Union in the Spanish-French unification war for 60 war score, 90 aggressive expansion, but it is 90 aggressive expansion on France and a lot of provinces in Germany. Basically all of them are Protestant, so they don't care that much about me being Catholic France. This is totally fine to deal with. I approve relations with the most important one. I can even take 500 ducats from them, and that is it. The Spanish-French unification war. France will form a union with Karl VI of Spain, and that means that right now my diplomatic map mode looks like this. This is, in my opinion, super strong, because you have to keep in mind this is not a normal Castile or Aragon game or something. I started as the little nation of Navarra in this one province that is right now almost 50 development big, and this is it. By the way, now I've got this mission fulfilled as well, for power projection that I don't need, and for Great Britain to change to my religion, because this mission is pretty unique on that sense. And France is pretty disloyal, but I can pay off their debt, which makes them loyal almost already. And they hate me because of the aggressive expansion modifier and the forced union modifier, but my ruler is only 32 years old, and I can obviously improve relations with them by another 200, so that will be no problem to hold that. This is the end of this little EU4 story of Navarra that I told you. I have one more video that I'm going to make out of this campaign, which has something to do with the main source of money in this campaign. That is going to go live on the next Monday, of course, and we are going to see in the next video.